motivate yourself, stop chasing gurus, and do the hard work. By Ramos. Part 1. Seeking motivation from others. So much self-help. When I was younger, I spent a lot of time in the self-help aisle in bookstores. There were a lot more bookstore chains then, including Warden Books, Biddleton and Borders, and a lot more Barnes and Noble locations. I read books about relationships, communication, fitness, work, personal finance, and motivation. With each book I thought, this is going to help me figure out what I want out of life and how to get it. I read the classics, How to Win Friends and Influence People, The Road Less Traveled, See You at the Top, I'm Okay You're Okay, The Power of Positive Thinking, and What to Say When You Talk to Yourself. They all had something to offer, and I applied their principles to my daily routine. I often found, though, that the results were fleeting or non-existent, which drove me back to the bookstore in search of the next best thing. Now, for those of you who have read these books or others like them and found them to have changed your lives, I couldn't be happier for you. They simply did not have that effect on me. I was trying to apply someone else's paradigm to my life, and despite best efforts, I wasn't seeing any results. Perhaps I was reading the wrong books or asking the wrong questions, but these books didn't help me figure out what I wanted from life and how to get it. Most of us have a desire to do great things with our lives, big, meaningful, amazing things, but we have a hard time getting from here to there. These books were not getting me from here to there, but that didn't stop me from reading more and more of them. I was sure I was about to stumble onto something big. Just one more book. Just one more. That book never came. Rags to Riches. The Horatio Alger story, Rags to Riches. The story transforms the American dream into dollars and cents. Work hard, think big, and financial success is around the corner. So many get-rich-quick schemes. Real estate, inventions, sales, investments. So many opportunities to make money fast, without much thought given to how you're making the money or to what end you're making it. There are so many stories turned into books and seminars and study guides about folks who had nothing but who had a dream and gumption and some luck and made it big. And if you buy their book or attend their conference, you too can make it big. There's no question that some of these stories are inspirational. They started with nothing, sometimes less than nothing, and they dug deep in themselves and pulled off what seems to be a miracle. They struck it rich. I can strike it rich too. They overcame obstacles, much bigger ones than I'm facing. I can overcome them too. They're no superheroes. They are not otherworldly. They are no better than me. They did it. I can too. But how? How do you translate their success into your success? How does their motivation become your motivation? How do their ideas become your ideas? And then there was the question of why they did. What made them get out of bed every morning to do it? I read a lot of their stories, and was moved by them, but I couldn't make their stories mine. Overcoming failure. Motivational speakers love to say we should embrace failure. Edison didn't invent the light bulb on the first try. Abraham Lincoln had his share of disappointments before being elected president. And how are we supposed to learn and grow and tackle big ideas without failure? Big ideas require big risks, and they're called risks because they, at times, have bad outcomes. Don't avoid failure, they would say. Shake its hand, sit down with it, get to know it and learn from it. Of course, not fearing failure, believing in yourself and your talents and taking calculated risks is healthy and necessary in life. Success is generally preceded by failure in some form or manner. Some think the most important thing one can do is to embrace, not fear, failure. By doing so, one changes one's paradigm from risk-averse to risk-taking. As Shakespeare wrote in Hamlet, there is nothing good or bad, but thinking makes it so. There are books simply dedicated to accepting and overcoming failure, because these authors believe so strongly and so deeply that by not doing so, achieving one's dreams is virtually impossible. There is no doubt that not succumbing to failure is integral to success. But simply knowing others had done so didn't translate into meaning I could do so. And sometimes failure does mean it's time to move on. Sometimes fear is the appropriate response. These were great stories of courage, strength, and resilience, but again, they want my stories. Darkest before the dawn. We've all heard stories of those who had their back against the wall. They were broke or addicted or alone, they were anxious, depressed, even suicidal, they were at the end of their rope with no help, solace, or escape in sight. Yet they reached deep inside themselves, found hope, trudged forward, and came out the other end. And of course, if they did it, so can you. Certainly, I can make the most of my day if others have gone through so much more and didn't break under the weight of it all. If they can focus and believe the sun will come up again, then I can tackle anything that comes my way. If someone can survive cancer, the loss of a limb, loss of a loved one, or even the Holocaust, then I can overcome whatever challenges come my way. Often I'm left with the feeling, wow, this person is amazing. How courageous. Oh look, I got an email. I may share their story with family and friends. I may try to emulate their bravery. But within a few days, it's another story catalogued in my mind, which makes an appearance now and then but leaves little lasting impact. I don't remember ever saying to myself, that Olympic runner captured during World War II, the guy in Unbroken, what's his name? Oh yes, Zamperini. If he can survive a prison camp and forgive his captors, I can do this. I love the movie and the book, but I'm not Zamperini. I love stories where through sheer will, others overcome the odds, but I don't generally find much application to my life. You need grit in this life. A whole lot of it. But how do you teach it? How do you develop it? How do you make it part of you? They did it. So can you. Many motivational books and speeches share inspirational stories. The speaker may discuss the many obstacles she overcame to become a CEO, or an Olympian, or a performing artist. The author may describe herself as an ordinary person who did extraordinary things. She overcame poverty, illness, lack of role models, abusive parents, addiction, bankruptcy, divorce, you name it, and despite it all, they did it. They really did it. They are great, beautiful, wonderful stories. But I always struggle finding the application to my life. What do I learn from a gold medal Olympian about being a better lawyer, husband, or father? Work harder. Believe in myself. Ignore the naysayers. Do I need an internal dialogue based on someone else's accomplishments? Role models are important. Many of us had them growing up and some of us still have some. We have mentors and those we look toward for advice. But how many of us chart our course based on what they did? I love movies like Rudy, The Rookie, Hoosiers, Rocky, The Blind Side, Friday Night Lights, wow, so many inspirational sports movies, and they leave you pumped to tackle the world. But for me, those moments quickly dissipated and reality set back in, and ideas such as teamwork, and leaving it all on the field and fighting for every inch, as noble as they are, did not provide me continued momentum to tackle whatever needed tackling. So they did it. So what? An athlete wins a race, a musician creates a new genre of music, an author makes it onto the New York Times bestseller list, each of them beat the odds and did it. So what? What does that mean for me? Yes, we are happy for them. Great stories. Great testimonies. We love the underdog. We love coming from behind, defying the odds, and winning when no one thought it was possible. But often these stories aren't simply feel-good stories. They are shared with us to motivate us to be like them. They are a mainstay of motivational speeches and books. If Helen Keller, Amelia Earhart, and Thomas Edison did it, you can too. If others can climb Mount Everest, travel to space, or win a gold medal, you can do whatever you want as well. Is that true? Is that how it works? Holding others up as heroes and trying to emulate them is noble, and that works for some, but for the rest of us, at least for me, I'm left figuring out how to translate their success into my own. I can't simply recreate their sheer will. I can't simply recreate their talent and drive. I can't recreate their upbringing, or their mentors, or their challenges. There's a lot to be learned from them, but simply looking to them as an inspiration for my own success, that's never done it for me. Maybe for you, which is great, by the way, but not for me. They changed the world. How do I do it? By reading or watching how they did it. Maybe. I'm not convinced. How did they do it? I am a process guy. I believe everything we do, all successes and achievements, can be reduced to a process. You want to write a book? There's a process. You want to direct a documentary? There's a process. You want to become a killer deposition taker? There's a process. When we look at others who have accomplished great things, perhaps we shouldn't look at them as a fountain of motivation but rather study them to see how they accomplished what they did. Can we replicate it? Sometimes you can't. Some of the best musicians in the world are the worst teachers. Why? Because you can't teach talent. You can't teach being a virtuoso. That's not translatable. My younger son, Michael, plays the jazz bass guitar. He studies the music created by Jaco Pastorius. He revolutionized how the bass guitar is played. He was brilliant. And you can't teach brilliance. Someone like Jaco has a relationship with his instruments that few can have. Jaco hears music like few others do. Things that come naturally to him, that are hard to explain and harder to teach. Those things are difficult to reduce to a process and replicate. On the other end of the spectrum from talent comes passion. There are those who pour their lives and souls into an idea, a project, or a dream because they couldn't imagine not pursuing that adventure. Like talent, I don't think you can teach passion either. Passion isn't something you create. You can't teach it. It's something you have for something you love. Michael Jordan can't teach me to be passionate about basketball. He can show me how to dribble, how to pass, and how to shoot. But he can't teach me to fight and claw for every possession. So you can't reduce passion to a process either. But there is good news. Each of us has at least one talent. Many of us have more than one. Each of us is passionate about something. Most of us are passionate about more than one thing. And we'll get into this more later, but invariably, and I do mean invariably, there is an overlap between our talents and our passions. The point of intersection, coincidentally, is where we find our dreams. You achieve your dreams by identifying your talents, matching them up with your passions, and devising and implementing a plan making the most of both. That's why being impressed with how others achieve the task isn't much help. Studying how they did it, and parceling out what you can replicate without having their talents or passions, is what matters. Don't be motivated by what others do. Determine what you can learn from how they did what they did. What can you learn from what they did? When studying others' achievements, what can you learn from what they did? Forget the talent and the passion. Forget the daily mantras and inspirational quotes. Forget the darkest before the dawn, and you too can overcome anything life puts in your way if you just believe in yourself. None of this is process-oriented. There are few takeaways here. If you're looking toward others as role models to emulate, you need to study what they do that you can do too. What's their routine? What's their schedule? What do they read? What are their hobbies? What organizations do they belong to? What do they do for those organizations? Being inspired by others is great. But without goals and a plan to achieve them, the inspiration won't take hold. We can learn the how from others. We can't learn the why from them. Why we want to do something, be a great trial lawyer, lead an organization, write a book, that comes from us. The Olympian wanted to be an Olympian. The war hero wanted to fight for his country. The musician wanted to play music. They had a why. If you find your why, you won't need motivation. Your why is the motivation. What was their process? Success is generally preceded with a process. It may be intentional or it may simply be a habit or something one has always done without much thought or planning. When reading or listening to a motivational story, listen for the process the person relied on for success. Let's take, for example, a speech by an inventor who secured a patent, started a business, and now her products litter the aisles of Walmart and Target. Now, our story doesn't overlap our stories of being trial attorneys, but there is a lot to learn from her story. Yes, she believed in herself. Yes, she never stopped trying. Yes, she never gave up on her dream. But in the midst of all that, there was a process. For the inventor turned retail sales tycoon, there was a plan. There was a plan in designing and then securing patents for her products. There was a plan to market her products to retailers. There was a plan to manufacture them for as little as possible while maintaining quality control. This isn't the sexy part of her story. Reading books on business and developing a business plan isn't as motivational as the self-help quotes she would repeat to herself every morning. Nothing is impossible. Look at the word differently. It's actually impossible. That's great, but I don't know if motivational quotes or posters I hang on my walls are going to get me from A to B. So let's look beyond those. So, how did she do it? She mentioned seeking out mentors. She read everything there was to read to securing and protecting a patent. She prepared a business plan. She kept a journal of her ups and downs and recalibrated when necessary. Focus on process. Study process. What did she do that worked that I should do to pursue my objectives? Learning everything you can about what you want to do, seeking mentors who do what you want to do, and creating a plan on how to get from here to there are all important steps and part of a larger process. That's what you focus on. What she did that you can do, that's what you focus on. Always study process. What attitude did they have? There is a difference between motivational sayings and one's attitude. People who succeed believe in themselves. They believe in their ideas. They believe they can succeed. Do you need me to share with you famous quotes, or inspirational songs, or uplifting stories to get you to believe in yourself? To boost your confidence? To convince you to take the hill? You have to tackle any project as if you've already done it 1,000 times, and that you've already succeeded, but the circumstances simply have not caught up to the success yet. People who succeed share this attitude. You have to believe in yourself, in your idea, in your plan, and in your process. Most every motivational book talks about this. How does the saying go? It's not your aptitude, but your attitude that determines your altitude. How often have you heard someone say that? Include it in a book? Reference it in a seminar? How about some permutation of that? But you say, I don't have that attitude. How do I get it? Believe me when I say that you have a gift, you have a passion about that gift, and with the right plan, you can leverage that gift to fulfill a dream. Believe me when I say this. It's true. It's no less true than the law of gravity or that 2 + 2 is 4. Believe in this truth and you will have the attitude you need to succeed. What talents did they have? The sports, military, entertainment, and business success stories all share something: a person with one or more talents who uses them to succeed. They identify their talents and work with and improve them to achieve their goals. Physical or performing arts talents likely aren't transferable to the practice of law or business. Being athletic or having a broad vocal range aren't going to help when trying a case or starting a business. Focus on those talents that would help you achieve your goals. Were they natural communicators? Leaders? Managers? Visionaries? What talents did they have that would help you? More importantly, which of these talents are ones you have? Once you identify the talents, study how they used them, applied them, and developed them. When did the talents come in handy? How were they leveraged? How did they make the difference? Some of us look at talents narrowly. In fact, there is a wide spectrum of talents that play a role in helping you achieve your goals. A great memory is a talent. Humor is a talent. Empathy can be a talent. Networking, critical thinking, planning, creativity, imagination, listening. These are all talents. Playing by ear and having a killer hook shot are not the only talents. When reading other stories, identify all the talents, not just the obvious ones, determine if you have any of them, and see how others develop them so you can too. What were their goals? When reading or listening to motivational stories, study the individual's goals. How reasonable were their goals? Goals. How attainable were they? When did they think of their goals? How did they decide upon those specific goals? Why not other goals? What was the purpose behind those goals? Why those goals? Why were those goals important to them? They sat down, thought through what they wanted to achieve and wrote one or more goals on paper, typed them into their phones or on their computers, or simply committed them to their heart and their memory. Why we do what we do, that's influenced by our talents and passions. Do any of their goals resonate with you? Are any of their goals your goals? Are any of their goals similar to yours? Any plan starts with a goal. You decide what outcome you want and create a plan on how to get there. So goal setting is the beginning of achieving your dreams. When reading motivational books, go beyond the person's sayings and focus on what the person wanted to achieve. What did she consider a win? What was the ideal outcome? Focus on the goals and everything that went into deciding upon them, shaping and molding them, and finally deciding, this is it. This is what I want, hell or high water. This is what I'm going to sacrifice for, take risks for, and stake my time and resources on. This is where it all begins. What was their plan? Goals without plans are just dreams. They are pleasant thoughts of what I may do someday when I have more time, or energy, or money, or desire. Goals are the target. Without them, you never have a target to shoot at. But without a plan, you may have a target, but the odds of hitting it are low. To get from here and there, you need a map. Otherwise, you're wasting time, energy, and money. When reading about others' accomplishments, study what their plans were. After they defined their goals, what plan did they create for themselves to achieve them? Before starting a business, you develop a business plan. You spell out how your business is going to succeed. When you embark on a personal goal, being an effective trial lawyer, developing a book of business, becoming an author, or meeting a need in your community, you need to create a step-by-step plan on achieving that goal. Study others' plans. Sometimes they get lost in all the motivational quotes and sayings, because to be blunt, plans aren't sexy. They take time and hard work and a lot of thinking and talking through and revisions. They generally get little attention in the biopics. But they are there. If you look carefully, they are there. It usually involves a routine, something they did every day to get closer to their goals. It usually involved a mentor, someone to help them realize their goals. It usually involved planned setbacks. They knew they would face obstacles and planned on moving forward despite them. There was a road they laid out for themselves to get to the destination. Study those roads. You may need to take similar ones on the way to your destinations. What was their process? I'm a process person. I believe everything we do, take an affective deposition, learn to play an instrument, becoming a leader, can be reduced to a process that can be followed by others to achieve the same outcomes. All my books, including this one, presume that Goal X is simply made up a series of steps, and my objective is to define each and every step and explain how to do them. You do A, B and C and you will achieve Goal X. Whether it's teaching associates how to take a deposition, teaching firms how to implement an associate training program, or teaching you how to achieve your dreams, everything involves a process. Sometimes it's obvious. Sometimes it's not. But when studying how others do what they do and how they do it well, look closely at all the barely visible steps that, when done together, achieve the goal. Henry Ford transformed the craft of making a car into a series of steps on an assembly line, turning a craft into a semi-skilled job. Be Henry Ford when looking at others' stories and spell out for yourself the steps they took. If you can identify all the steps in the correct order, you should be able to achieve similar results, assuming, of course, you have the skills and passion. More on that later. Don't seek motivation from others. Seek what can be reproduced. If you love inspirational stories, watch them, read them and listen to them. I love them too. But don't seek motivation from them. Don't say to yourself, he did it. I can too. Don't memorize their quotes or sayings. The character Rocky Balboa gave some inspirational speeches in his 6+ movies, 7, including Creed. His inspirational speech to his son in Rocky Balboa has close to 10 million downloads. He tells his son life is hard. That it's not all sunshine and rainbows. That life hits hard. Life hits all us hard. And what separates winners is their ability to get hit and keep getting hit and keep going. If you're familiar with the Rocky movies, you remember what a beating he took at the hands of Apollo Creed, Clubber Lang and Ivan Drago, among others. He took hit after hit and overcame them. So the speech to his son is grounded in the character's own experience. Great story. Great speech. But when you're questioning your goals and your plan, when you're wondering if you can fulfill the dreams you set out to achieve, are you going to be relying on Rocky Balboa to get you through? What can we learn from that character? He always outtrained, outworked and outsmarted his opponents. If you want to take anything from inspirational stories, take what you can reproduce, i.e., outwork your competition, and apply it to your circumstances. You can replicate that. Replicating another's motivation is much more difficult to do.